You see, I believe it's not just a one-way system. It's not that we have to search this all out for ourselves. I do believe that the Creator God has revealed something to us. In other words, if you look at our universe that science studies, I believe that gives solid evidence of God's existence. And also, I believe that, and we can come to that a bit later in our discussion, I believe that the Bible gives very powerful evidence, and then human experience. We're not left without an evidence base. We can see evidence that God exists. And one particular piece of evidence that God exists for me as a scientist might surprise some of you. It's that we can do science in the first place. And why do I say that? Well, you see, if you are a committed scientist, you must believe something. And that is that you must believe in the rational intelligibility of the universe, or the mathematical intelligibility of the universe. And that's a matter of faith. Einstein himself said, I cannot imagine a genuine scientist without that faith. Now, you talk about evidence. Why should I believe that the universe is rationally intelligible? Here I am with my mind studying science, but many of my atheist colleagues tell me that the mind is the end product of a mindless, unguided process. And sometimes I say to them, I tease them a little bit, that I say, if you knew that your computer was the end product of a mindless, unguided process, would you trust it? And I've always got the answer no. So I say to them, you have a problem. You're telling me you do science and you trust your science, you trust your mind to do it, and yet your theory is that you cannot trust the mind. And that was something, by the way, that Charles Darwin realized a long time ago. He could see that there was a real problem there. He wrote this: with me, the horrid doubt always arises whether the convictions of man's mind, which has been developed from the mind of the lower animals, are of any value or at all trustworthy. And Thomas Nagel, a modern American philosopher, a very brilliant man, he says, and he's a strong atheist, he doesn't want there to be a God, but he said, if the mental is not itself merely physical, it cannot be fully explained by physical science. Evolutionary naturalism implies that we shouldn't take any of our convictions seriously, including the scientific world picture on which evolutionary naturalism itself depends. Now, where am I going with this? What I'm saying is that atheism, the view that there is no God, makes a nonsense of our trust in our minds to do science. Does Christianity do any better? Massively better. Now, I mentioned Galileo, Kepler, Newton. All of those men believed in God. And when C.S. Lewis was describing what went on in the 16th and 17th centuries, he linked the biblical worldview, the theistic worldview, with the rise of modern science. And he put it this way. He said, men became scientific because they expected law in nature, and they expected law in nature because they believed in a legislator. In other words, the faith in God that Galileo, Kepler, and Newton had didn't hinder the science. It was the very motive that drove it. So there are two sides of the picture for me. If I follow the Christian line, I have an understanding of why science can be done, because the same God that created the universe out there, so to speak, created my mind in here. But if I follow the no God, atheistic view, I find that it's undermining the very rationality I need to do science. So that's the beginnings, to my mind, of a very powerful evidence-based argument.